Hey guys, and welcome to the next tutorial for ethical hacking. In this tutorial we will be talking about the necessary commandments. That means a few set of lines that every ethical hacker needs to follow. Every ethical hacker must follow a few basic commandments. If not, bad things can happen, and I have seen these kind of commandments ignored or forgotten when planning or executing ethical hacking tests, and actually the results were not good. So the word ethical can be defined as working with the highest professional morals and principles. Whether you're performing ethical hacking test against your own system or for someone who has hired you, everything you do as a ethical hacker must be let's say, in relation to support the company's goals. No hidden agendas are allowed over here. Trustworthiness is the ultimate test net, I can say. The misuse of this information is absolutely forbidden, however, and that's what the bad guys do. So if you do these kind of things, there won't be a much difference in your and other people. One of the biggest mistake that I have seen when people try to hack their own system is that they actually end up crashing their own system. The main reason for this is poor planning. These testers do not read the documentation or misunderstand the usage and the power of security tools and techniques. You can easily create a DOS condition, that means denial of service conditions, on your own system when testing. Running 2-minute test too quickly on a system can cause system lockups. I know this because I have done this. And don't rush things and assume that a network or specific host can handle the beating that network scanners and vulnerability assessment tools can dish out. They can, however, catch you no matter what you do. Many security assessment tools can control how many tests are performed on a system and at the same time. These tools are especially handy if you need to run the test on production system during regular business hours. So you can even create an account or system lockout condition by social engineering someone into changing a password, not realizing that doing so might create a system lockout condition. The ethical hacking process is very critical. Like any stuff in IT or security project, ethical hacking needs to be planned in advance. Strategic and tactical issues in the ethical hacking process should be determined and agreed upon. Planning is important for any amount of testing, from a simple password cracking test to an all-out penetration testing on a web application. Next thing that would be to formulate your plan. Approval for ethical hacking is essential. Make what you're doing known and visible to at least the decision makers, to the people who have actually allowed you to hack into this thing. Obtaining sponsorship of the project is the first step, and this could be, however, your manager, your executive, or a customer, or let's say even yourself in case you are the boss. You need someone to back you up and sign off on all your plan. Otherwise, your testing may be called off unexpectedly if someone claims that they have not even authorized to allow you to perform these tests. So these authorization can be as simple as an internal memo from your boss if you're performing this test on your own system. If you're testing for a customer that have a signed contract in place stating the customer support and authorization, then you can surely do that. Get written approval from your bosses and other people from whom you're actually trying to go ahead and work this thing out. You need a detailed plan, but that does not mean you have to have volumes of testing procedures. One slip can crash your system, not necessarily what everyone wants, is it? So there needs to be a well-defined scope that includes every information. The first thing would be specific systems that needs to be tested. Second thing would be the risks that are involved over there, and when these tests are performed, and your overall timeline as to when you will be completing all of these tasks, and because time management is extremely essential. Next thing is that how and who would perform this test, because you alone cannot go ahead and do all of these things. How much knowledge of the system do you actually have before you actually go ahead and try to plunge or purge into these things to go ahead and crack them? So knowledge of the systems would be the next part. And what is done when a major vulnerability is discovered? So if you discover any kind of vulnerability, then you would actually go ahead and actually try to use this vulnerability against the people of the system, just to go ahead and gather or see how much more vulnerabilities, or you would actually go ahead and patch the system before anyone else at the same time goes ahead and tries to hack it. Then the next thing would be the specific deliverables. So this includes security assessment reports and higher level report outlining the general vulnerabilities to be addressed. along with the countermeasures that would be implemented. When you're selecting systems to test, or start with the most critical or vulnerable system, for example, let's say you can test computer passwords or attempt social engineering attacks before drilling down into more detailed system. It pays to have a, let's say, a contingency plan for all your ethical hacking process in case something goes bad. Let's say what if assessing your firewall or web application and you actually take it down. This can cause system unavailability, which can reduce system performance or employee productivity, and you don't want that to happen. Even worse, it could actually go down and cause loss of data integrity or loss of data and bad publicity. Handle social engineering and denial of service attacks carefully. Determine how they can affect the systems you are testing and your organization. Determining when these tests are performed is something that you must think long and hard about. Do you test during normal business hours? How about late at night or early in the morning so that production systems are not affected? Involve others to make sure that they approve of your timing. The best approach is an unlimited attack, wherein the type of test is possible. Because the bad guys will not hack your system within a limited amount of scope. So why should you? Some exceptions to this approach are performing DOS attacks, social engineering, and physical security tests. Don't stop with one security hole. This can lead to a false sense of security. Keep going on to see what you can discover. And I'm not saying to keep hacking until the end of time or until you crash all your system. Simply pursue the path that you're going down and until you can't hack it any longer. One of the goals that may be needed to perform the test are that without being detected. For example, you may be performing your test on remote systems or on a remote office, and you don't want the other users to be aware of what you're doing. Otherwise, the users may be onto you and be on their best behavior. You don't need extensive knowledge of the system that you're testing, just a basic understanding. This will help you to protect the system. Understanding the systems that you are testing should not be difficult if you're hacking your own in-house system, but if you're hacking a customer system, you may have to dig a bit deeper. In fact, I've never had a customer that asked for a fully blind assessment. Most people are scared of this assessment because everyone has something to hide, and the type of test you will perform on the organization or customer's need are something that you need to keep in mind. And the thing why I told you that you need to be let's say undetected is because let's say for example, if you're trying to hack into an organization, and if any of the user or malicious employee discovers that there is someone or some hacker that's trying to hack into the system, then he may stop going ahead and doing corporate espionage for that specific point of time, and you may not even actually find any kind of vulnerability where it actually is the employee who's actually the most vulnerable part of the whole organization, and you don't want that to happen. That's why you need to be undetected, because you don't want to other people to know that there is someone who's actually monitoring each and every other thing out there. The next thing that you would need to know would be to select specific tools. Before we move on to how to select specific tools and what tools are required, the things that you would need to know would be the basics of these tools. So the basics would be understanding how an operating system works, and what are network assessments, and what are firewalls, and how do these work in total. Firewalls are just simple things that protect your organization and let you configure manually as to what things you want other people to know and what things you don't want other people, or let's say what kind of data you want your system to enter, which port needs to be active, where what are the other IP addresses on your network, and all those things. That's what a firewall does. So you need to know what these things are, and the basics of CCNA or any other thing would help you actually acquire all of these things. Before you select any other tool for ethical hacking, you must know what they do, because if you don't, then you would actually end up crashing your own system. So however, there are a few technical limitations that there are, and you may miss some weaknesses because of that. But the tools are not the only thing that help you hack into system. It's your experience as to how to talk with people, as to gather the zero-day vulnerabilities, which actually even the tools cannot determine. You need to understand the specifics before you actually go and try to hack into something. So I think that would be it for as of now for this tutorial, because that's how these things work. In the next tutorial, I'll be teaching you which tools are required and how we could hack into these systems, and we would actually start hacking into, or the basics of hacking from the next tutorial onwards. So I think that would be it for this tutorial, and have a nice day ahead, guys.